Hi, this is Philip DeVaul, rector at Church of the Redeemer in Cincinnati. I want to welcome you to this podcast. We're doing this once a month where I interview one of the people at our church and talk to them about the different ways that the church is part of their lives and they're a part of the life of Redeemer. This month, we are interviewing Evan Bond, who is going into his senior year of high school this fall and has been a member of this church his whole life. I'm so excited to interview Evan, who is a major part of the youth group and the life of this church. And I'm really excited this month to highlight one of our high schoolers specifically because, in case you didn't already know, we at Redeemer are looking to expand and build upon our beautiful family ministry by being more intentional around our youth and young adult ministry. We have recently announced that we are going to be looking to hire a full-time associate for youth and young adult ministry and being intentional and careful about our programming there for youth and young adults at this church. So we talked to Evan a little bit about that in this conversation, and we will be talking a lot about it over the next couple of months here at the church as we look to build on the excellent family ministries that we have at Redeemer. So I hope you enjoy listening to this, and if you have any questions for me, I hope to hear from you soon. Thank you. Enjoy. So have you been a part of Redeemer your whole life?
Yeah,
Yeah?
yeah. Since
I
I was born.
When your parents were here already when you were
Yeah.
Okay. And so you grew up here.
Yeah.
What was your favorite, how about this? What was your first memory of Redeemer? Your earliest memory?
My earliest memory. Well, oh man, I'm sure there's plenty of things that happened before I can remember, but definitely my earliest and best probably memory is when there was the tweens group, and it was sort of in between Club Corps and youth, and it was 11 and 12-year-olds because it's in between double digits and teens, and we did this video where it was all about finding Jesus, and it was we did it in a sort of what's it called, an investigate, a detective type.
Yeah.
We completely filmed an entire movie, and we played it for the sermon. I just remember that was a blast.
Who else was in it?
Sarah, Katie, Lucy.
Yeah.
I forget Lucy's last name, but
You had the crew.
yeah, definitely. I'm pretty sure Will Henning was in it too.
Oh yeah, that's great.
But it was just all the youth, and then Sarah's dad was Jesus. And so I just remember following him around, pretending he was Jesus.
Scott Feeney was Jesus?
Yeah, Scott Feeney was Jesus.
And so where did you find Jesus?
Well, so what we did was we went around to different parts of the church, and in each part of the church, one of us was pretending to be sick in some sort of way, and then claiming that Jesus healed us, and then giving clues, and then the detectives would be like, "Dang it, we just missed him," and so. We ended up finding him in the entrance pathway between when you enter the sanctuary, and
so you
I don't really think there was a plot.
So you guys found Jesus in church.
Yep.
Literally.
Uh-huh.
That's good. That's I like that. That's great.
It was.
And now you're a junior in high school.
I will be a senior next fall.
You will be. Yeah, I guess you're not a junior anymore. School's out. Are you
It's
at
out.
Walnut Hills?
Yep.
Wow. So have you started to think about where you might want to go for college?
Yeah, I've visited some places. Nothing serious decisions so far. I have no idea what I'm gonna do going into college.
Sure.
But I really liked University of Kentucky. We went and visited. We went down to islands in Georgia, and on the way down we took a road trip and just visited a bunch of colleges, and the UK was probably my favorite one.
Well, if you go to UK, you will have many people at this church who are very proud of you and excited for you. Brad's probably would be pretty psyched if he did that.
Yep.
There'd be a few other people too. That's great. You'd probably get a lot more if you choose something like UK or Xavier. You'll probably get a lot of gifts from certain people in the church. So I'm not saying that should influence your decision.
No, it's not.
But it doesn't hurt, right?
Right. UK and University of South Carolina were my two favorites, but UK is probably a bit above.
And I'll tell you, I mean, I was a theater major, and now I'm a priest. And so my point is, and I know a lot of people who what their majors were and what they end up doing are not always the same thing, which doesn't mean it's useless. It's very helpful. It's just, you don't have to feel too much pressure going in to know exactly.
Right.
It's kind of crazy to assume you're going to know what the rest of your life is going to look like right this moment.
Yeah. I have no idea what
Which
I'm
is,
gonna do.
I guess I'm just saying good. Like, you don't need to, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And if anyone tells you, just tell them to,
Yeah.
relax,
Yep.
Dad,
I'm
so-
looking at you.
No, I'm not saying it. Well, don't get me in between you and Dad, okay? But he knows. If anyone knows,
Yeah.
your dad knows what it's like for sure. You were on the search committee
Yep.
when for the rector. So you were one of the first people that I met at this church. In
Yep.
fact, I think you were probably in this room or you weren't on the Skype interviews.
I was.
You were there.
I had to set up all the technical stuff.
You were
'cause no one else knew
By
how.
being the youngest person, you were also the technical person.
Yeah.
I love that. I love
Me
that.
and Hume.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, you were there in that Skype interview, and then we had breakfast,
Down at Echo.
or had lunch at the Echo. No, we had
Yep.
breakfast at the Echo. Either way, whether it was breakfast or lunch, we had Geta. It was good. It was
Yeah.
a good thing.
It was very good.
How did you get into that?
I don't know. I'm just pretty active in the church. Like, I come all the time. I've usually have some sort of role within the service every week, just from picking whoever doesn't show up and going on all sorts of like missions, and like we did Mountaintop a couple times. Sarah and I are going to this EYE thing.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Which is exciting. And so basically, I guess people just like noticed how much I was doing, and then I got asked more than once from just different people who I think was on like the nominating committee for the search committee.
Yep.
And so they just got asked like more than once if I would be willing to do it, and so I was like, sure.
That
sounds
cool.
like a great experience to have.
Was it a pretty cool experience?
It was pretty taxing at times, but
Sure.
I mean,
you
it was.
balance
I'm
out
glad
high
I did
school?
it. Yeah. At one point, I had finals, a 12-hour lifeguard training, and like 4-hour long back-to-back Skype interviews, and all in the same week. And it was probably like one of the most hectic weeks of my life so far. But it's over now, and I'm glad it happened. So.
Here you are, right?
Yeah.
You made it. You made it.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
It is. It really is.
What were you, when they asked you to be on it, what were you hoping to find in terms of, like, what were your priorities?
Someone who could work well with the youth, definitely, because that's the biggest part of the church for me is the youth group, just because
that's your age?
yeah, basically it's
Yeah.
great. It's a great place to meet people that I can connect with, and
Yeah.
I definitely have. I've made some awesome friendships, and it's just been a really big part of my life. So
Yeah.
I
And
definitely
it has
want to
been.
make
You've
sure.
been really involved, like you said, not just in youth group, but with people your age. And, I wasn't here when this started, but can you tell me a little bit about the healing prayer during the Eucharist and the banquet service?
Yeah, so it sort of just started out of nowhere, and Carol asked if she came one week to the youth session, and just like sort of presented the idea, and it was when Paul was our youth minister, and he loved the idea, and so we just like she made these cards that had a prayer for themselves and a prayer for others, and so it's sort of just like a great.
So
I don't know.
So slow down. So she gave you
We loved the idea,
and
then
what was the idea specifically? How did she present it to you?
she presented it as a way where people could just go and whatever they felt like needed. They felt like they could talk to someone and have it be like a really meaningful connection with God. And so she just basically wanted everyone in the church to have, like, if they didn't want to like say it out loud during the prayers of the people, they could just come over and quietly have like a laying on of hands.
And do you know how she had the idea of recruiting youth to do it?
I do not. I think she just decided it would probably be the best demographic to do it.
That's fascinating.
Just yeah.
So was it scary when you first started doing it?
Kind of. I'm a people person, so I definitely think I had maybe a better time with it than others. But I thought it was an amazing idea, and before Paul left, we would go like once a month to the like the like recovery center not too far from here.
You mean the rehab center, like
Yeah, that's
Marjorie
the
P.
word I was
Lee?
like. Yeah,
Marjorie P. Lee?
That's it. And we
Oh,
would go
okay.
and like do laying out of hands for just people staying there, and it was like I really
That's
felt
awesome.
like it was an amazing thing. And actually, story, Mike, the
The
used,
priest in
like,
charge,
yeah,
the
priest in
interim?
charge
Mhm.
who left not too long ago, he came up to me as one of my first people and asked for laying out of hands for because he had been diagnosed with cancer, and he came up to me
Oh,
and like
wow.
asked for laying out of hands with that. And afterwards, I just like went up to him and I like talked to him. I was like, "Oh, I really hope it gets better." And then like a couple months later, he came up to me and was like, "Yeah, it got cured." And so that was just like a really eye-opening and like amazing experience that I had where I
Oh, my
really felt like it
goodness.
worked,
Yeah.
and it was amazing.
You're
Yeah,
part of something special in that.
yeah,
And you still do that.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's sort of, I don't even think it's a sign really. Usually just the youth talk before church, and some of us go grab a card. So it's not really, I don't think, a scheduled thing
Yeah.
like acolyting, but there's always someone doing it. So,
And people come up.
hmm
That's beautiful. So yeah, now it's just part of your understanding of Sunday morning is to be able to be there for people and pray over them.
yeah,
That's beautiful. I love that.
me too.
I've also seen you. I know you helped with a ramp build
hmm
sometime in the last year or two.
Yeah,
Is that with the what's it
Keenan
called?
and
Keenan and his crew. I don't know what the name. It's people.
PDWC
Yeah, people working.
cooperatively, I
There it
think.
is.
Yeah, I've been doing that for a while since I was like 7. I
Oh
wasn't
wow.
really much of a help when I was 7, but
No,
um,
you could hold the bolts, right? That
right,
was
that's
about
right,
it.
that's right. But it's recently, I haven't been doing it as much, but it's definitely like it's really cool how fast you can like. You never really think you can install an entire ramp in like 4 hours, but it's definitely
Right.
doable. And like, I mean, it really helps. Like, it helps. Like 4 hours ago, this person couldn't get out of their house because they didn't have a wheelchair ramp, and
Right.
now they can go wherever, I guess. And it's just I don't know, it's more of like a manual, like going out and helping the community type thing rather than an internal thing, but it's definitely great.
It's one of the cooler
Yeah.
things. This church does a lot of really, and this church does a lot of cool things because it seems like you're a part of a lot of them. I think you get some MVP points for the way that you're involved in this place.
Yeah.
Um, did you know that we were looking at looking to hire a new person for youth and young
Yeah,
adults?
I've heard, yeah.
Yeah, we want to make sure your senior year you got someone that's
Someone.
you're gonna have to help them out, right? Whoever we hire, you're gonna
Yeah,
have to get the lay of the
definitely.
land. So you and the crew
That's right.
are gonna have to teach them. What kinds of things would you like to see happen with youth
Um
at this church? Even after you're gone, what would you like to see happen?
I don't know, I think that just needs more of a pull towards it. Like we have our youth like weekly gatherings, but really if people haven't been coming, they usually don't start coming.
Yeah,
So that's like a pretty big flaw. Like we talk to people like and invite people down when we see people, but a lot of times they're just I don't really know, either they're just nervous or they have stuff going on. So it's generally been a rather small group. I think there is a generation gap in between like me and Sarah's age because there's a lot of us, and then like Lily Kirk in that age, and I think there's just like because there's a ton of them. As soon as that whole
they're gonna be in high school in no time, and
yeah,
all of a sudden there's
and
gonna
all
be
of a
a
sudden there's gonna
huge
be a ton
youth
of
group,
people in
or
the
there
youth
will
group.
be if we have someone to help out and
Right,
get it to where it needs to be, right?
right. But I feel like there's a gap in between, and it's kind of hard. But I mean, really, just a youth leader who like has ways that they feel like they can involve people.
Yeah,
I feel like that's really really kind of key.
yeah,
And more just like planned out like regular things, because like we go down there, and don't get me wrong, I love it. It's like an amazing way to transition from week to week, going
yeah,
down there every week, and just like we just generally just talk about our week and like what happened and
yeah.
anything big that may have happened
Well,
in
it's
our
good to
life.
be connected, but it's not the same as having a very specific sort of plan.
Right,
And that's hopefully what we want to do. I mean, you're saying
right,
exactly the thing I hope that we're able to do is not we want you to have a place to gather and connect, and you have that, and that's good.
And I'd love to have that time still. I just feel
Yeah.
like that's all that happens. And
No,
we
we want to have something that will help to continue to educate you and bring you into more fully into the life of the church.
right.
Because I love when I see how involved not just your age but Lily's age and the kids. I
Yeah,
mean, when I see
everyone.
people in this church of all ages, we try to figure out ways to get them involved. So one of the things I'm excited about and Brad and Tommy do a really good job at that. And Annie always obviously helps out with that. We have a good kind of people are always looking to figure out how we can get people involved. But it'll be nice to have hopefully a priest who can specifically devote
Time to the youth.
time to that. I know when you and I were talking when you interviewed me, because
Yep.
you were a hard interview, Evan. You were a hard guy.
I was.
You asked some tough questions, but you did But you were asking me during my job interview, what my attitude towards youth and young adults was, and I remember, obviously it's like when you go to a restaurant and you want to eat everything on the menu and then you order too much and then afterwards you're like, okay, that didn't work out.
Yep.
There's so many things about this church that I want to be a part of because there's so much going on.
Right.
But and you and I've talked about it, just you were like, how do you feel? I was like, oh man, I can't wait to start coming to things. And then I got here and I was like, when is that going to happen? At what point? And then we decided to have a baby and all the rest of this craziness. But so I guess to me, but there's just only so many hours. And so what we realized, the staff and the leadership of the church, as we were looking at the fact that there's only so many hours, is really this you all deserve someone who will devote their time and energy to you.
I feel like that'd be amazing. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I think it'll be cool. And then if
Yeah,
you go
I
to
feel
college
like-
locally, you can come back and help out. If you
Right,
don't go
yeah.
too far away.
And I feel like having someone like Paul, who wasn't necessarily like a priest, but he was like definitely like an adult leader figure who could like gather everyone. I feel like he did an amazing job. He really because that was a point where I was like stopping to come to church, and then Paul came. And I like really liked Paul, and so we like started coming more and more and more people came.
Yeah.
And then once he left, a couple people like sort of like not fall off the rails, but like just sort of slowly
Yeah, and that
went away. But that happens. Like I know some people are working, some people have like just different sort of practices and extracurriculars outside of it, but really just someone who's energetic and passionate about the youth would be amazing to have.
Yeah. It's hard whenever people come and go, and it happens in church life,
really hard.
but every time, because we get connected to different personalities and people. When I was in 7th grade, back at my old church in California when I was a kid, I was very involved, like you are. I don't know if I was as involved as you are, but it's hard to tell because I went to a church and school that were connected. So I was basically just there 7 days a week. And so, so I didn't, sometimes, I don't know if sometimes it was for volunteer stuff, but just my whole life was sort of revolving around that. And I didn't like the youth person. I mean, I straight up didn't like them. And I know that, you haven't had any issues where you've disliked anybody, but I straight up didn't like the person.
Wow.
And then my 8th grade year, he left and they brought in a new guy, and it completely changed.
Yeah, that definitely happened.
I mean, it just completely changed my experience.
Yeah, I feel like it went generation to generation because I know Annie was the youth leader at one point, and I'm pretty sure she started around when like Claire Shuttlecotty and all that whole college level right now's like age was there, and they were like Annie and that group was insanely close, and then I know like Paul was sort of the Annie for our generation.
Yeah.
And we love Paul, and so I really want to find someone that like the
Who can
next
be for the next
generation down can love, because like it's like that was definitely like amazing, and I'm pretty sure they would all say the same about Annie, and we all like Sam, Sarah, and I all love Paul.
That makes
And so
sense. The way
someone-
you describe it really makes sense. The idea that each generation sort of has
had
their person.
someone. Yeah,
And the goal then is to have someone in that place that can be stable, a sort of stability, like someone's present and part of your life in that way. And that's great.
of course.
I hope I get to meet Paul someday. That's really cool.
He was
Okay, what else I wanted to
nice
ask
guy.
you about? We've talked about the preaching, the praying. Talked
Mhm.
about the ramps. We've talked about youth. And you read when someone else doesn't? What's the
Yeah,
trick there? Do you walk up at the beginning of the service and talk to the sacristan and say what spots, or do you just
usually
wait
the
until
sacristan comes up to me,
Okay.
and then at the beginning is like, hey, if this person
here are the
if
places
this
that
person doesn't show up, can you do this? And I generally end up
So you're
with
the
like
Johnny on
one
the
or
spot
two
for that?
readings. Yeah.
Have you ever read in the sanctuary or only in the banquet?
Generally in the banquet, just because that's where healing prayer is.
Yeah, that's a good
and
point.
I do that a lot, but also that's where I get scheduled the most is in the
Sure.
banquet, and so I acolyte quite a bit in the when I don't have to read in the banquet. Usually I acolyte in the sanctuary.
Well, that's cool.
But I read during I forget exactly what it was called, but I read in the sanctuary on one of the four days of Advent. It was like the Prism
Oh, when
I
they
forget
had
what
the
it's called. It
service,
was like Prism.
Prism. It wasn't that when they did the service that was like kind of a hybrid of all the different things.
Yeah, all of the bands were in it, like the
Yeah.
different groups. I was one of the readers during that, and that was pretty crazy. It was very hectic. I think it was like a 2.5 hour long service or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
But it was definitely like one of the more like known, I guess, or like
Yeah.
famous Sundays in the church calendar.
Oh, I've heard of it, and it wasn't
And-
even here when I got here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Absolutely. Have you? And what's your favorite mission work that you've done with the church?
My
What have you done mission wise with the church? You said you've been to Mountaintop.
Um
Have you been to El Hogar yet?
no.
Okay.
Probably Mountaintop,
Yeah.
just because it's really like you go out, you meet new people, and then you work with those people to do amazing things for the community. And I feel like that's just like it was a great experience. It was I don't know really how to describe it. It was just like not eye opening, but it was like because I kind of expected it was sort of like PWC, except for a whole like 5 days in a row.
Oh wow, that's an
Like we
interesting way to
did
put it.
yard work for 2 days, and we painted a house another day, and then we like took apart and rebuilt a porch for the last 2 days. And it was just like you get there, you get like you separate into teams from like all around the country, and then you just like bond with that team. And then you have like when you get back at like so you go out at 9 and come back at 4, so it's a whole day of just like mission. And so that's like amazing. And then you come back and you have like all this fun, like there was a game called 9 Square. It was 4 square with 9 people.
Oh wow.
And there's just like a bunch of just really, really cool activities that you don't really get the like chance to do if you don't go on that type of mission.
Yeah.
So it's just a great time.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me, where do you feel like you've seen God at work in Redeemer, or maybe outside of Redeemer in your daily life lately?
Oh man, this is always a hard question.
I know, but I have to ask it. It's the
I
rules.
know.
I'm a priest. I have to ask you.
I don't know. I usually just say that I see God in like the people that brighten my day, just because like it's just amazing how much like a good someone, like a friend with like a cheery attitude, can really just change your day from like sucking to being a great day.
Yeah.
And so I always think that that's just like really just powerful. And yeah, I'd say that's probably where
You can always say that. That's a good answer.
yeah,
I mean,
it really is. And I don't know, just recently with like stressing over like finals and stuff like that, it's just been amazing to have like people who don't really get down on themselves, and they just like cheer you up. So that's definitely, I'd say, where I've seen God.
I mean, if you see God working in the people around you who are treating you with love and respect, then you pretty much understand the whole Jesus thing really well. That's you got it. I mean, that's it. Having eyes to see where God is working through other people is pretty much. It's oftentimes as simple as that, and we forget, you know.
Yeah.
So, tell me what Redeemer, what this church and this community means for you in your life. What is this place for you?
Oh boy.
I know.
And you're asking banger after banger.
Well, you threw all the high heat at me when
yeah. Oh
When you had
man.
to interview me, so now I get to interview you.
Uh, um, Generally, like coming just for the normal service. I don't see it as like a chore, but it's definitely not like waking up and like, oh man, let's go to church.
Sure.
Like that's definitely not like what happens. But I know it's like it's sort of just a good like serious time that I can come and like reflect on the past week. It's like as I said earlier for like the youth, it's just a really good transition from week to week, and it's like you can kind of forget all of the like bad things that might have happened in the past week and just like refresh yourself for a new week. And I think that's like I don't know, it's sort of like a good recovery spot where you don't
Yeah.
have to like worry about anything else. So that's probably it for me. And then afterwards, going down to youth is always just like an amazing time to see people that I definitely love. So I don't know, it's great.
Sounds a little bit like going to the gym. Like no one gets up and is like, "Woohoo, I'm going to the gym." But no one ever leaves the gym wishing they hadn't gone. Does that
Right.
make sense? Like, well,
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you go to maybe you don't even go to the gym, but
No.
like, okay, well, when you get older, they make you go to the gym. It's like part of
Uh-huh.
life. You don't just get to be in shape just for being a kid. You got to like actually work at it, as you can
Oh.
tell. Some of us are better at it than others.
Oh.
And so when you go to a gym, you wake up and you're like, oh, I don't want to do this. This is terrible, but I know I'm supposed to. And then you go, and then while you're there, you're like, oh yeah, like this is why I'm here. And then you leave and you go, oh, that made sense.
Yeah.
I get why I'm a part of that.
Yeah, that's definitely sort of describes it.
It's
It's like going to the gym.
Ah, the gym for Jesus. It's the Jesus gym, man. I've
Sounds
just
good.
given you a terrible picture of church. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no.
I've ruined it. I've ruined church for all of us. Is there anything else you'd like to say about Redeemer, about your experience here, about anything else that you would, before we wrap up the interview, that you want the folks listening or reading to know about you or about this place?
I don't know. I really just feel like this church has given me a great place. Like I've met amazing people here, and it's definitely like I've had some experience I could not have had without the church, and that's like something I'll be grateful for a long time. And so I don't know. It's just like a great. Like I just love what has happened because of the church in my life, and that's yeah.
Me too. I feel the same way.
Oh man.
Thanks
That's
for
crazy.
thanks for bringing me to Cincinnati, Evan.
No problem.
I appreciate it. Well, I think we're good. And are we good?
Yeah, I
All
think
right.
so.
I think we did the thing.
All right, we
All right.
did it.
All right. I'll see you at
That's
church on
crazy.
Sunday.
Awesome. Sounds
Bye.
good.